Hi everyone, Nick Jones here, Alpha Dog Behaviour, and welcome back to this video, the fourth in the series of the puppy training journey. On this video I would like to look at with you the subject of settling a puppy at night. Now, out of all the puppy visits I do, this subject of having a noisy puppy at night must be near the top of the list for many people. Because of course, if you're not getting a good night's rest due to a puppy being noisy, then it leaves you shattered and tired the next day, and of course your puppy can sleep it all off. So it's important that you set up a good routine from day one. Now, with Ruby here, she's 9 weeks old today. We've had her a week as of today, and from the very first night we brought her home, she went in her own crate. Now, the first crate we used was, I think you would call it like probably a large size, and looking back that was probably a bit too big for her. And thankfully I found a small crate in the garage, and she's sleeping in that crate much better at night. She's more relaxed. Now, what sort of week have we had with Ruby? Well, the first night was pretty noisy and broken. The second night she was still noisy, and she continues to be noisy initially when she's left. So the first night I think she probably cried throughout most of the night, and then on each subsequent evening she's been much better. And what we're finding now is that she'll cry for about 20 minutes, and then she's going quiet, and amazingly she's sleeping through really quite late. Now, I'm covering the crate in, I just so happened to have some material that was light blanking material. I think it was appropriate for lining curtains, and we're draping that over the crate, and to our amazement she's sleeping through to about 8 AM. Now, I know many puppy owners would be a bit jealous to hear that, because that's a little bit unusual, so we'll just take that as a good thing. So thank you for that, Ruby. But I think the reason she's sleeping in so well is that she is being kept pretty active during the day. I do think it can be a mistake to let a puppy sleep and sleep and sleep and not interact with it, especially say in the early evening. And so the spirit of these videos is really to give you some thoughts and ideas, so as that we're working in the realms of avoiding problems rather than correcting them later on. That we set up a good practice from day one, or night one as the case may be, so that the puppy's expectations are set. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do you cope with your puppy at night? What sort of routine do you go through? We put her to bed in her crate at about, this week, because it's the Christmas week, she's been going to sleep about 11 PM, possibly a bit later on a couple of nights. And then we do not come back to her until she's been waking up, as it turns out with her. If she was an early riser and waking up at 4 or 5 AM, we would not be coming down to her. This is one of the most common mistakes I find that puppy owners will make, is that they return to a crying puppy. I don't want to sound unsympathetic. I don't like hearing her cry in the crate, but I'm setting this routine that will help her. If she knows or thinks that I will come down to her at 4 or 5 AM and either start interacting with her or even give her a toilet break, it can make literally a rod for your own back, and that's not what we want. A number of owners, in an effort to have a quiet night, and I do realise that some neighbours some owners will worry about neighbours, and that's a legitimate comment. Coincidentally, mine are away this week, although I don't think they'd hear her anyway because she's in our lounge. And that, you know, I do recommend you ignore the crying and leave the pup where it is. But what some owners will do is to maybe even take the puppies into the bedroom, and then of course from that night on the puppy will almost certainly sleep well, but the puppy can end up on the bed. It has to insist being on the bed, or at least in the bedroom. Now, I'm not anti-dogs in bedrooms as such, but the problem is that it can paint you into a corner a little, and we, in some dogs then, might have some issues such as over dependence upon the owner, so you may see signs of separation anxiety. You may have a dog which could become possessive of you because that dog is in a way on you all night if it's on the bed, and so some dogs don't like other dogs or people coming into your space, let's say if you're out in public. This is quite rare, but in my work looking at behaviour problems, it's the sort of thing that is can occur quite often, and the roots of that problem are often in these first few nights of having a puppy, and of course we're desperate for the puppy to sleep, and we're desperate for us to sleep. So in summary, I do take a fairly dry approach with puppies, in the sense that they go in the crate at, let's say, 11 p.m. and they're not let out at 7 a.m. If you longer term wanted to be letting the puppy out at, let's say, 8 a.m. Or possibly longer, then that's something you can build up to over a number of couple of weeks, say, or maybe a month, so that you might come down to the puppy at 7 a.m. consistently, and then 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, and so on, until you can bring your puppy to a time that suits you. So don't worry so much about the specific timings, because these are timings that suit us in our household and lifestyle, but you can make those timings flexible to suit you and your family. And so also just a few words about leaving the puppy absolutely last thing at night. It's okay, once the puppy is in the crate, for you to get down there, to talk to the puppy a little bit, to settle the puppy in, so that when you do leave, you feel that she or he is in a good position to relax and go to sleep. Just a few words of caution. I do like to remove a collar from a very young dog. It's not unheard of a puppy snagging a collar in the crate, okay, and that's not obviously ideal. So I do take the collar off at night. I don't leave any water in the crate at night. This can often just be spilt, and that makes the bedding wet, and inevitably if the dog was to drink that water, it would just want a toilet break in the night. Also, you can cover the crate, as we're doing with Ruby. That can help. Just be sure that doesn't make the environment too hot. Possibly leave some little corners for a bit of ventilation. Be careful not to leave the crate too near a radiator. Dogs generally are well insulated themselves, and I know many caring owners will worry about how warm the dog is, and may even overheat the dog in an effort just to keep it warm. So be careful that doesn't happen. What other notes have we got here? No music at night, no radio. In the day it's okay, but at night I would just make it nice and quiet in there. No light either. The dogs don't need light to sleep, okay? So again, start off in the way that you would like to continue. I think that's it really. Toys, you could have a chew inside the crate, but make sure that that's absolutely not going to fracture off. No bones or hide chews, anything that the dog could consume in the crate. If anything, something like a little rope raggy toy, something like that would be acceptable. But again, I would really hope that the puppy is sleeping in the crate and not really worrying about a toy. We brought home from Ruby's breeder a little blanket that was impregnated with her mum's scent. So that was done by the breeder actually, which was very thoughtful of her, but it's something we've done before with other dogs as well, and I do think that can help the initial sort of few nights. So just a quick word or two about toileting as well, and keeping a puppy in a crate all night. If you prevent any big water intake prior to the puppy going to sleep, then actually, which is what we've been doing, you should be coming down in the morning and finding that the crate is dry. Ruby's crate has been dry, I would say about 80% most nights so far. I've found just a bit of wetness on the metal tray underneath her bedding, and of course I can just lift that out and dry it. And I think that, you know, you would expect that at the most for a couple of weeks, as the dog is developing its toilet training skills and very quickly move past that. I don't advocate toilet training pads in the crate up one end and the dog sleeping at the other. I think again this can just encourage the dog to relieve itself in the crate, where what we're really trying to do, and of course we have to be patient with this with a young dog, but we're really trying to encourage the dog to understand that any toileting should not be in its sleeping space, and that should be done in the garden or in your chosen area. So that's a key thing. Don't worry or panic about any pees or poos in the crate. We've had one poo in the crate from Ruby, and I think that was done fairly, you know, in the morning, not long before we came down to her, and thankfully we could just pick it up and clean the bedding, and it wasn't a big deal. So in summary, those are some ideas for you to consider with a very, very young puppy, and those first few nights of introducing it to a crate and having hopefully some quiet nights so that you get your rest and the puppy is resting as well. Remember, if you go down to the puppy at all hours due to the noise, and the noise can be loud, Ruby is surprisingly loud, and I understand fully how distressing it can be to listen to a crying puppy, but you are in some respects trying to break the ice here to set up a new pattern for your dog so that its expectations are that you're not coming back until, let's say, 6-7 a.m. as you decide, and you can change those hours as time goes on. Setting those expectations are really important. Your puppy can sleep all through the day if it chooses to, if the puppy has a bad night, but you can't. You are likely to either need to go to work, look after children, run a business, and so on, and it's not funny when you have 2 or 3 really broken nights and your love or initial love for your puppy can quickly evaporate after a few bad nights. So I recommend a pair of earplugs, and to put your puppy in a relatively quiet space. You leave the puppy at going to bedtime and you come down at coming down time, whichever hour that is, but please don't come down in the middle of the night. Also, I don't like the idea, sorry to sound bossy, of people, say, sleeping with the puppy downstairs to placate the dog. Again, you're making a rod for your own back. Please just go to bed, get as much sleep as you can, and come down in the morning. I have looked at this problem in some depth with a number of customers, and when this advice is ultimately given as a way forward, that's what breaks the cycle. I've worked with some people that are clearly desperate because they haven't had a good night's sleep in weeks or sometimes months, and the only way that routine can be broken is by being more rigid with your approach to these night times. Okay, so I realise this doesn't apply to many puppies. Many just come in and settle in and they're no problem at all, but if you are having problems, then that would be my advice, and if you're not having problems, then hopefully that advice would help you to avoid them in the first place. So there you go. I hope that helps. Some thoughts for you on nighttime sleeping for you with the puppy. What do you think? Oh. Oh, she's exhausted. So thank you for watching. Please remember to like or subscribe depending on what format you're watching this on, and stay tuned for more videos on Ruby and the puppy training journey. You're getting hot. You're getting hot. There you go, lay you down. It's making me hot.